We have up next a man who is a cultural, economic, and technology visionary, or as I prefer to call him, a great friend and media ecologist. Jack Myers, where are you, Jack? Great, come on up, Jack. Jack is one of the real prolific professors of media. I mean, he's a writer, he's a producer. His recent book, Hooked Up, all about millennials. If anybody needs to know anything about where you want to stand,
here.
Okay, about millennials, he knows. And you've got a new book coming up as well.
The Future of Men.
Future of Men, good. And is there a future for men?
It's challenged.
Okay, a lot of good reading to come up. So Jack's going to take us through kind of the media landscape, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Barry, and congratulations on the success of the day.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Thanks all for being here. I know I'm the last person standing between you and lunch. I can hear the stomachs growling from up here, so I'm going to talk quickly. I won't share as much detail on a lot of the points that I'd like to share with you as I would typically do, but I'd like you to get the major points. The topic that I was charged to talk about was how technology is forever changing media habits. And I don't think those of you sitting here need to really understand or need me to give you a tutorial on how media is forever changing, how technology is forever changing media habits. It's also forever changing media buying and planning habits. It's forever changing advertising habits. It's forever changing marketing habits. It's forever changing the consumer, not just their habits, but the consumer themselves. And it's changing the reality that we all live in, and that's what you're hearing about here today. But I also want to share with you why I'm bullish on media and why I believe that media, advertising, marketing remain strong, will continue to remain strong, and even the engine that drives all advertising, television, I believe, will continue to be strong for a variety of reasons that I want to share with you. I talk about the fundamental culture of our business is changing. This is where we've been, and this is not just an indication of what a boardroom looks like, it's what businesses look like. And as we move forward into the future, business looks very different. The culture that we're all operating in is changing dramatically. We are looking at an industry, the advertising industry, the media industry, where 60 to 70% of the junior and mid-level management is composed of women. And so over the next decade, it's inevitable that women will rise to the top and begin taking the C-suite jobs. The women 18 to 34 are actually paid more. Single, unmarried, childless women 18 to 34 earning 18% more on average than single, childless men 18 to 34. We're seeing dramatic cultural shifts, and this is driving a lot of the shifts that we see, not just technology driven, but culturally driven. And marketers are looking at communicating with these consumers in very different ways. 10 years ago, we never heard of these companies, most of these companies. And over the next 10 years, there will be emerging new companies that will be driving our future and that we'll need to understand and be aware of and focus on. Every minute of every day, consumers' media habits are radically different than they were last year, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, and certainly dramatically different than they were 20 years ago. When we look at what's happening every minute of every day, we're seeing far more engaged consumers in digital transactions. And reaching these consumers is becoming more and more difficult, which is why marketers are struggling, which is why we saw a couple people here say media companies are terrified and scared. In fact, I don't believe they're terrified or scared. I think they're responding, and I think for the most part, the media and advertising industry is responding well. We're dealing with some real fundamentals, but what I want to share with you are not these fundamentals that you already know. More video viewing opportunities, more media measurement options, multi-platform integration, programmatic and automated buying. You heard about for a full hour that could have gone easily all day. It could have been focused much more on how DPAA members can take advantage of this. And I know the DPAA has been working hard to build programmatic solutions. This is going to continue. Right now, it represents between 20 and 30% of all media buying, according to the major agency holding companies. And that number will only continue to grow. And their focus on arbitrage and transparency issues, as we hear from Erwin Gottlieb at WPP, is continuing to be a major issue and revenue generator for the industry. And I'm going to focus on marketing budgets shifting from below to above the line. And we're not going to talk about data and databases, but they are powering growth and they're hugely important to the issue. But it's not just the amount of data we have, which is growing by the exabyte every year. Huge amounts of data. It's how we use that data, how we analyze that data, how we import that data into our day-to-day decision making in a meaningful and effective way. And that's an increasing challenge for the industry that the industry is not yet quite stepping up to. The three most important positive trends, not just for digital out-of-home video, but for the full advertising and marketing business that I want to spend a little bit of time with you today talking about is the Internet of Things, shopper marketing, and the expansion of video screens, both inside and outside the home. The Internet of Things just a couple of years ago, we didn't really hear much about. But today it's a $2 trillion business, $2 trillion. And by the end of this decade, the Internet of Things will represent a $14 to $16 trillion industry. To put that in context, all marketing expenditures in the United States represents about $600 billion. We're talking about a $14 to $16 trillion industry called the Internet of Things. What is the Internet of Things? Well, it's a lot of things, but one thing that certainly affects your business is wearables. Wearables will soon be purchasing the smartwatches. There are smartwatches being built that don't necessarily need to tie in, but we're also carrying wearables now. We're carrying credit cards that can be scanned. We're carrying credit cards that can be read. We're carrying phones with payment systems. Our cars are increasingly invested in, our auto manufacturers are increasingly invested in the connected car. It's considered by the automotive industry to be the single most important seller for new automobiles over the next decade. The connected car is a huge business for the out-of-home advertising industry. It creates a captive audience, it creates a complete new audience, and it's just one more segment of a fast-growing industry. The connected car will talk to its neighboring cars. It's talking to the roads. It's talking to billboards. And we've seen in the industry, we see at the airport at Heathrow, we see billboards talking to airplanes and airplanes communicating with the billboards that connect to the message. This is all the Internet of Things. It's a massive business, and it's one that's driving the growth of the digital place-based advertising business as well. So as we look at the next major trend, it's shopper marketing. And I can't stress enough the importance of understanding shopper marketing and its relevance for every single media company, every media agency, every ad agency, every marketer. Shopper marketing is the single greatest spur of growth for advertising over the next decade. Mobile commerce is growing exponentially. Most importantly, 100% of the growth of advertising will come from shopper marketing over the next decade. 100% of the growth of your businesses will come from shopper marketing. Shopper marketing typically represents, it's also called below the line. It includes consumer sales promotion, trade promotion, direct marketing, event marketing, PR, social. These are all typically below the line budgets, and they represent on average 70% of the total marketing communication budget. And if we talk to the brand managers who are here, I think they'll tell you that the vast majority of their personal time is invested in below the line budgets, and much less time traditionally invested in advertising. The reality, because of digital, is that the opportunities for traditional media companies and emerging media companies to tap into promotional budgets that drive the consumer to take action, as opposed to just generating reach and awareness, is a huge opportunity. And digital is driving that. And the digital out-of-home industry is a place that's essential for that, as we've heard this morning. By 2020, there'll be an additional $100 billion available to media partners from below-the-line budgets. If you look at marketing spend, it's flat between now and 2020. If you look at advertising spend, it's growing about 3 to 5% a year between now and 2020. 100% of that growth is coming from below to above the line, which this chart reflects. The third category, something that's preaching to the choir here, is the increased focus on video and the growing number of video screens that are available in the home. This is the change from just a few years ago when there were 100 companies in the video business in 19 different buckets, if you will, or categories. Today, according to Terry Kawaja at Luma Partners, there's 400 companies, 36 buckets. So the amount of competition is intensifying. The opportunities and the dollars available are growing as well. Demand for total video advertising, including network TV, on down to including video and mobile, video online, digital place-based video, is growing an average 4.5% a year. That's solid growth in a market that's flat. Out-of-home advertising, growing 4.5% a year. Digital place-based video advertising growing 11.2% a year. You are one of the fastest growing segments, not just of the advertising business, but of the total marketing communications budget. It's a good business to be in right now. And digital is driving that growth. So as we look at the future, as we look ahead, what are some of the things that we're confronting, that we're dealing with? What are our challenges? Video usage increasing inside and outside the home, you understand. Viewers embracing over the top, making advertisers pay more attention to where they reach their consumers, as it's becoming more and more challenging to reach them in traditional legacy media. I remember when I started out in the television business, it was impossible to sell a rating below a 3 rating. There's more multitasking by viewers, meaning that advertisers need to connect with people not just across multiple screens, but across multiple activities that they're engaging in throughout their lives. Again, this lends itself to the strengths of the out-of-home digital place-based medium. Reach is becoming more automotive. In the past, 95% of all ad dollars were invested in achieving awareness, retention, interest through reach. And the job of advertising was not to drive sales. It was not to motivate. It was not to persuade. It was to drive awareness through reach. Well, when we talk about programmatic, reach is moving into the programmatic field, which means media sellers, agencies need to find ways to become more creative, more engaged in the creative process, more engaged in tapping into those below-the-line relationships and budgets, and those are the success stories that we've been hearing about today. Nonstop growth for programmatic, more attention being paid to the live experience, to the out-of-home experience, to sports, to how do you engage with the consumer when they're engaged in things they're passionate about. Helping this industry is also the ability to address messaging, activation messages to specific groups of consumers when they're taking specific action. And that means that beacon advertising and the Internet of Things is a hugely important opportunity for this industry. And finally, and again I come back to the point, the single greatest growth opportunity for our industry is that content owners will be looking to connect their content and associate it with their consumers and allow marketers to tap in to those audiences through their content. So as importantly as it is to work on the distribution, to work on the addressability, the data, it's also important for the industry to work on its content and to find content solutions and to also be in the content business, because that's where marketers will be looking to associate. And that's my fast version. Thank you for listening. There are slower versions, and thank you. Barry, thank you for inviting me.
You know, Jack will be here for the afternoon if anybody's got any questions, but I got to tell you, for those of you that paid $6.95 to attend today, that is just worth the price, seeing that 15, 20 minutes of media education, where it was, where it is, where it's going, how to evolve it. You're a professor of this business. I know you call yourself an ecologist, but that was worth the price of admission alone, wasn't it? So that was great. Thank you. Give Jack a hand. Two quick questions. Jack is bullish on media, certainly, and you make a great point about moving the money above the line. Is any media sector taking full advantage of that, or some kind of asleep at that? Or?
Historically, believe it or not, magazines have always focused in on that. But also sports. If you go into the supermarkets now during football season and you see Peyton Manning standing there with some merchant, selling a product with his cardboard cutout, that's shopper marketing at work. And those are the sponsors of the NFL who are participating. You see a lot of local media, local radio has tapped into the retail budget.
But the big national media conglomerates, not
they're
so
beginning.
much.
So Viacom has invested significantly in that area and has rebranded their sales organization. Turner Broadcasting has been out in front of that for many years, and we're seeing NBCU with Linda Yaccarino now making significant investments toward the shopper marketing budgets.
Wow, terrific. Great knowledge. Jack, stay here while I talk about lunch. So we have, we're going to break for lunch. We have, please, lunch is courtesy of Fun TV. Go to the Fun TV in the Verifone areas to eat and have lunch. And then we're going to be back here at 2 o'clock. Some sponsors to thank. Digital Caddies, go see the golf cart running around outside there. Clear Channel Airport's a new DPAA member, and they're going to be in airports throughout the country. We've also got iCorp, which is great. I think Jeff Gunman may be here. Grand Visual, we spoke about earlier, and The List. So thank you. Go get some lunch back here at 2 o'clock. Thank you, Jack.